What's up, Facebook? Welcome back to the Henry Holster Shop. It's Friday night, 10:30. The mill is eating plastic. The first 6 P320 HDPE molds are coming off. And I wanted to talk about X marks the spot. But before we get to that, a couple of preliminary things. Give some folks some time to wander in. So, got my mic on. I'm probably gonna talk loud. I got earplugs in. Let's take those out. I'm gonna leave the iPro on because I may have to leave to go check the mill, and I don't want to forget to have it on when I go over there. So, iPro and EarPro, a valuable asset in your shop. You only get one set of ears, one set of eyes. So if you screw those ones up, that's it. Hello, Tom Kelly. Thank you for joining me on this fine evening. It's toasty here in my shop. I'm gonna get some plastic and boost this camera up a little bit higher. 1 second. Ryan, tonight we're talking about this. You see that? That's the "this failed, it didn't work, throw it away and try again" mark that I have on holster shelves littered all over my shop. So it's mostly about learning curve and testing and trying new processes, new tools, all that kind of stuff. The mill just finished cycling, which means I've got a 320 mold to pull off. So I'm gonna step away for a second and grab that. I'll come over and show it off to the camera. And we'll give time for a few more folks to wander in, and then we'll start on our topic. If you're here and you're a holster maker, please post your company name in the comments. I'm starting to get better. I'm recognizing more of you, but I still don't recognize all of you. So if you're a Kydex company, please do post your company name in the comments. And also, if you would, please share this feed on your personal page or your company page so that anybody else who follows you who would be interested in this can see that it's happening right now and stop in. I'm going to grab that SIG mold. Conrad Miller's here. Martin Elias Hem Mujica, Everyday Holsters. Awesome, man. Where's your shop located? So this is the new SIG P320 mold, designed by Conrad Miller, tweaked by me, and machined on my brother Speedio. It's looking pretty good. This is the very first one off the mill, and so as I go over it, there will probably be some toolpath tweaks and a few other minor changes I need to go through in order to cut the cycle time down and deal with any small cosmetic issues before we start actually putting these out. But the XC1 holster is almost done, and these will be rolling out Louisville, Kentucky. Sweet, Martin. If you're ever up near Bloomington Way, give me a call, and you can stop in. Louisville's only a couple hours from here. So that's that. So back to the topic, which is this. That nice big silver X. I keep silver Sharpies in my shop, and that's how I mark stuff that didn't make the cut, which in this shop is a lot of the stuff. So I started making holsters in 2008, and now it's 2016, which means a lot of plastic has gone through the shop in that time. Hasn't all been this shop, but through my shop in that time. And every time I've tried a new design or started to learn to use a new process, it's always meant eating some waste, changing the way I do things, unlearning old habits, learning new habits, this kind of frustration, and finally in every case, with enough perseverance and a careful work through, it has meant breaking through whatever the obstacle was, getting a handle on the new process, getting over that hump, and getting into the new spot where I wanted to go, where I had my eyes set, the new process, the new feature, the new design, and have it working well because I fought it and I won. And that's pretty much how it works around here. Hello, Gary. Hello, Dan Taylor. Thank you guys for stopping by. And what that means is that this process, this business life, is a business of evolution. If your holsters are the same now as they were 12 months ago, you're probably not doing your job. That doesn't mean your holsters from a year ago were bad, but it does mean that as you work, as you grow, as you refine your product, it should change. And this can be because new plastic formulations can come onto the market. You know, when I started, anybody remember Concealex? It was Bolt-Around, but it was a trade name. And at the time, your options were Kydex or Concealex. Holstex didn't exist. Multiple grades of Bolt-Around weren't available. I remember one of the first places I saw Bolt-Around holsters was Hillsman Holster. I'm not even sure if they're still around. But they were doing fold-over taco styles, and a big selling point for them, they were repping that they used Bolt-Around, I think 4330, which I don't use. I don't know anybody else who uses it currently. Hello, Roger Perez. Thank you for stopping in. But that was a serious point that differentiated their line from everybody else because they were using Bolt-Around 4330. And when I started changing from Kydex to Bolt-Around, that meant changing things. That meant tweaking my molds a little bit. It meant changing my heating temperatures and times a little bit. Every time you change some major piece of the puzzle, it's pretty much a global reset. A lot of the stuff will get back up to speed very quickly and will be very similar to the way you did it. But if you change plastic, here are just some of the things that will change. Your heating temperature will change. Your heating time will change. How you buff will change. What exact kind of edge finish you end up getting may change. How the inside of the holster feels and the retention may change, which may also affect the placement of your eyelets. It may affect the thickness of your retention spacer. All those things have to be assessed once you make that kind of change. If you change from foam pressing to membrane forming, I remember what the change was like. It was right around Christmas time, 2013, when I really just said, I've had it. I'm done with the foam. I'm going all to vacuum, and I threw away molds. I didn't throw away all my molds. Some of them that were still fine, that hadn't been all cut up and messed around with, I kept and sold. But I made a decision. I remember getting I got my BLT in late 2013, and I'd been using it plumb direct, and it was all right. And I was like, you know, I got to have a surge tank. I remember a couple Saturday nights in a row, I was just driving into town, going to Menards, had a paper list in my pocket, was going through tons of fittings. Do I need ball valves? Do I need right angles? Do I need hose barbs? Do I need, 1 inch to 3/4 bushings? What do I need? How can I make this? I bought a big section of 4-inch pipe. It was the wrong thing. I had to go back to Menards. I got my money back on that because they'd actually put the cell core in the rack where a solid core was supposed to be, so I bought the wrong pipe, but it was because Menards had misshelved it, so I got my money back. And I remember spending a bunch of time cutting pipe and putting on compound and putting this all together and building this surge tank because I really wanted to have the process dialed. I wanted to not screw around anymore. I wanted to get over the hump and actually own the membrane vacuum forming process. I was not content to spend 15 minutes here, 20 minutes there, and always get enough time invested to figure out it wasn't working, but not enough time, not enough energy, not enough money invested to actually beat it, to actually hack the process. Oh, dude, this is memory lane throwback stuff. So when I got my first strip heater, like global reset, everything changed because up until that point, the idea of actually having a crisp sight channel was like a unicorn. Like, I had a couple of different foam presses. I had one of the old school, which I still have somewhere around the shop, one of the old school fold steel kits from knife kits. It's basically just looks like a griddle. You put some foam in and it's got a non-rotating, just a slot hinge at the back, and you crush that sucker down. The original one was supposed to be flexed closed and locked with a chain. That didn't work well. Hey, Bobby Jackson, thank you for coming by. Oh man, Ryan Brack. That boggles my mind. You went straight from a foam press to a Swift press. Like, that's just crazy in my world because of all the steps I had to go through before I could get to a point where I could even look at something like that. So every time I went through a process change, it was a painful process change. Hello, Laura Moore. Thank you for stopping by. And at every step of those changes, every time I had a new material or a new piece of equipment or a new method for trying something, it was just painful. But also, it got me one step closer to the thing I had in my mind. And this is part of the reason why I showed that holster with the X. If you're going to say that something you made does not cut it, you have to have an idea in your mind of what you want, how it should feel, how it should fit, how it should draw, how it should conceal. Because until you have that ideal in your mind, you don't have anything you're shooting for. And the motivation to get over those painful humps, to get over those rocky, bumpy roads in the process shift, the motivation has to come from having this vision ahead of you of what you're going to make, how it's going to work and be awesome, how it's going to solve the problems you haven't yet solved, and it's going to do them consistently every time. Unless you have that vision in your mind, keeping your eye on that ball, it'll be really hard. It'll be so easy to start to get over a hump and then just say, screw it, and fall back to where you were and just say, you know what, this thing I was doing, it's good enough. And you settle. And what that ends up meaning is your customers settle, your distributors settle, you settle, and everybody downstream from you who's relying on your gear, who's using your gear, has to settle because you didn't get to the next level. You didn't actually push through and make it to where you wanted to be. I'm going to set this mic off for a second and get my fan. This always happens. I always forget to turn it on. And then 10 minutes in, I'm sweating like crazy and I look all awful. So give me a second, I'll get this fixed. Hello, Will Silk. Yeah, when I decided I was finally going to beat CNC holsters, hello, Clark. Let me actually put my mic back on. When I decided I was going to beat it, when I was doing that membrane forming, I was like, I'm going to get a surge tank. It's going to work. I'm going to have a shutoff valve and a bleed valve. I'm going to have all this stuff built out of 1 inch so I get max airflow. I'm actually going to hit it hard. The dudes in the plumbing section at my local hardware store got so sick of me because I was in there like 2 or 3 times a week because every time I'd go to build something, there'd always be some piece I forgot to get, or they didn't have in stock, or I'd put it together the way I thought it should be, and I'd realize, oh man, there's a better way to do this. This could be simpler, this could have fewer angles, this could be more direct, the runs could be shorter if I just did this. And then you end up like chopping it up and throwing parts away and going to the store and buying more stuff. Hello, Michael Hallam from Holster Company. And so making a down in my gut determination that at every stage of this process, I was going to embrace the pain of trying to vault over the next obstacle, trying to get past it so that the next thing that I designed, the next thing I produced was better than the previous thing. That was a commitment that I had to make with myself and then like hold myself to it because it's so easy. Like, I'm a one-man shop. I don't have any employee here who would laugh at me if I quit. He'd be like, ha ha ha, you suck. There's nobody here to do that for me. I have to do that for myself. And part of doing that for myself is trying to actually look at my existing products and figure out, if I was trying to beat me, what features would I offer? How would I run the business? And imagine what the best thing the competition could do to compete against me, and then compete against that. Try to get ahead of that game. And so, as of yesterday, I got no backlog. So I spent the end of July and early August getting caught up on all my retail orders, and I pumped out a bunch Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday I was shipping. Today's Friday. Yesterday Thursday morning, I shipped stuff out. The backlog was clear. I had no orders on the books. I was caught up. And at lunchtime, one guy ordered a holster. And I was like, dude, you're a backlog of one. I'm going to get it. And so I finished out. I had a bunch of shells already formed and trimmed and drilled. I just had to buff them out. And so I buffed out some extra stuff. So I had a few extra in inventory. And I shipped this holster this morning. So I didn't get any orders today for holsters, although I sold out of Swift presses today, which was awesome. Thank you to Hoftac and Low Crawl, who bought the last two I had on the website. Man, it is a great feeling to have no backlog, but it's usually a very fleeting feeling. Like, yes, today I have no backlog, tomorrow, back in the hole. And so, if you look at this big machine behind me, I know you guys have seen this in some of my Instagram posts. This was a big chunk of change. And it's going to be the subject of some YouTube videos and some other stuff later, but that is my Saib Automation 2-operator, dual station, top and bottom heaters, fully automated vacuum former. And that thing is not running yet. That's the painful hurdle I'm getting over right now. Because every time you test that sucker, you throw away a 2x2 foot sheet of Kydex. Every press cycle scraps 1/8 of a 4x8 foot sheet. That gets expensive really fast. So I'm waiting for a bunch more 4x8 foot sheets to show up. I'm not out, but I'm getting low. And until I get a resupply, and I'm sure that I'm totally good, because there's a lead time of a couple weeks when I order a pallet from Bolteron in Ohio. I'm going to be holding off on doing any more testing on that until I get the next supply of plastic in. And then it's hard charging, because I got to get over that hump, because this thing needs to make me tons of holsters. That's what I bought it for. That's what it's here for. And right now it's not doing that. It cost me a bunch of money, and it's just sitting at the moment, which is the reality of a one-man shop. Like, I can be running stuff on the mill. I can be making stuff on my Swift press. I can be trimming things on the router table. I can be printing labels, printing postage. I can be packaging orders. I can't be doing all of it all at once. And so that big thing behind me, oh yeah, Bobby Jackson testing that 2x4 foot Bellevac. Every time you slide plastic into the heater and you go, oh no, here we go again. Money, 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 money. It's like The Incredibles, which my kids love. Every time, money, 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 money. We can't keep doing this, Bob. But we can keep doing this, and we have to, because in order to get over that hump, we have to keep doing it until it's done. We have to keep hacking that process till it's hacked. We have to keep fixing those problems till they're fixed. I don't know why I'm so high energy. I didn't have that much extra coffee today. So, while you're here, I want to ask you guys a question, which is, what is in the next 4 weeks, what is in your shop the next hurdle you can see coming on the horizon that you know you're going to hit and you're going to have to get over? I want to know what exactly, with specificity, that hurdle is that you have to overcome. Hello, Eric Powell. How's Vegas? I want to know the next hurdle you got your sights set on that you're going to try to leap over to get to the next level in your process. What is the hurdle? So for me, my hurdle is this big sucker. I'm doing pretty well on the mill. I'm totally cool on my router. I'm fine with the trim router. I'm great with the Swift press. I'm doing fine with my CAD cam. all that's hunky-dory. This thing is my Moby Dick. This is the white whale. Although kind of a pun, I've been thinking, you guys see that's a Becker pump, which is awesome. It pulls 18 or 19 CFM, so it's a beast of a pump with a 30-gallon surge tank, like a boss. But I've been thinking about naming this big bad boy Fagin to go with my Becker. Anybody get it? Fagin with my Becker? Getting router table and trim board set up, says Ryan Brapp. Eric Powell says, my hurdle is getting time to get stuff done. Vegas is bueno, very hot. All right, I'm here for the last bit. Minuteman Defense. Skylar Gibbler, you finally made it. Glad to see you. We've just been talking about what the hurdles are. And this sucker is my next hurdle. Yeah, seriously, all the CFMs, that thing is a boss. I don't know if I told you guys the story of how I got this sucker here. It was built in Florida, and it got shipped on a semi, and it was supposed to get delivered here to my shop, but I don't have a loading dock, and I don't have a forklift. And this sucker was big. Not nearly as heavy as my mill, but more awkwardly sized. And so I got a call from the freight company saying, hey, we got an enormous crate and a smaller crate with it for you in Terre Haute. Where are we delivering this to? Terre Haute's about an hour and a half west of me. And so I gave them the address and said, you know, how big is the crate? And they told me the size. I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to be able to unload that. I was planning to borrow my neighbor's tractor with forks and just lift it off. But it had been put in this huge crate. Hello, Ahmad. And website launch, oh man. So I got a funny email, and I say funny, and I was just like, if I could have grabbed my hair, I would have been tearing it out. I got an email at like 10 o'clock on Saturday night from a customer who was trying to buy a Swift press that my website SSL certificate had expired. And I'm sitting there going, oh man, because I'm not a web guy. I didn't build my website. I maintain it, but I don't like it. And the idea of like, oh, stuff on the back end is screwed up. Getting that dust collection squared away in the shop. Yeah, dude, dust collection is huge. If you don't have good dust collection running on your stuff, especially if you can't run with doors and windows open, that's a big pain. And take care of your health. Wear eye pro, wear ear pro, wear a respirator. If you're buffing all this stuff will kill you over time. So get the dust collection running. So this huge crate was in Terre Haute. I had to find a way to go get it. It wasn't going to work to have it delivered to the shop, even though I'd paid for that. I wasn't going to be able to unload it. And trying to rent a forklift and have it delivered here at the time that I needed, I'm not a forklift jockey. If I tried to unload this thing, I was going to break it. So I ended up, you tried to buy one too? Roger Perez, you tried to buy what too? A Swift press? And you gave up? I don't know what the story is with that. Please post a comment. If there was a problem with my website, I want to know about that because I'm responsible for that and I got to get it fixed. So I ended up hiring a friend of mine who has a trucking company to take a flatbed out to Terre Haute, and they took 2 forklifts and loaded it on, and we brought it back here and unloaded it with a diesel Moffett and uncrated it in the air on the Moffett and then dropped it into the front of the shop. And then I went and bought a pallet jack and jacked it up and sort of K-turned it around the shop and parked it over here. It was totally loony. Gary Larson, a small CNC router setup. You have my interest. What kind of router are you thinking about getting, and what are you hoping to do with it? And also, since you guys are here, I want to know how many of you who are here right now are running CNC in your shop. And if you're not, what's stopping you? Let me grab something. I'll show you what this big press is putting out right now. I don't know if you guys can see these. Okay. So I have very usable test pieces coming off this former. Like, these can be cut up and these are saleable holsters. But it's not exactly set up the way I want yet. It's still giving me some issues. So like on this set of molds, this is 8 holsters. Based on a few definition inconsistencies, probably only 7 of the holsters off that set are saleable. One of them's got to be thrown away. And I need to get to a point where every single thing coming off that machine is saleable every single time. Otherwise, I'm just throwing away plastic unnecessarily every time I use it. Ryan Brapp says, what's stopping me is money. Roger, you tried to buy a Swift press earlier before today? Hot spots? Bobby, I haven't had a lot of hot spots. I've had a few cold spots. Where I've had issues is around the outside edge. So I think I was talking to another company that owns one of these, and I think what I'm probably going to do is actually install some extra reflectors inside the top alongside the heaters to put a little bit more of the heat down at the edges of the sheet, because those side edges were coming out a little bit cold. Carbide 3D Shapeco 3, says Roger Perez. Hey Roger, I want to get this issue resolved for you. I'm having a little trouble figuring out exactly whether or not you were trying to buy when I had inventory and couldn't get a transaction through, or if you tried to buy this afternoon after they were sold out. If you tried to buy today after they were sold out and the website worked fine, but I was just out of presses, I'm sorry, I'll make more soon. If you tried to buy earlier in the week and for some reason the website wouldn't let you, you were having a problem with the transaction, please tell me, because there's something and I need to track it down and fix it. Money and the knowledge to run the CNC is stopping me. Gary Lawson says, I'm strictly a sheath maker. 30 by 40 Chinese unit for attachments. Yeah, if you're doing a lot of sheet flat stock about it, thank you, Roger. Please do Facebook message me about it. Or you can text me, 812-369-2266, if you feel like it. If you're doing a lot of flat sheet work and you're cutting belt attachments or things that are going to get folded up or riveted later, pretty much any kind of small CNC will work. Probably my top 2 picks, if I were buying a new CNC now, would be Shop Saber or Cam Master. My small router is a K2 CNC. They went out of business 6 months after I bought my router, just out of the blue, which was really a bummer, but it's a simple enough unit that I haven't had any problems with it. And if I did, it's pretty open. I could probably find all the parts I needed and replace it, replace parts. But if you're interested in CNC, what you should do is get a seat of Autodesk Fusion 360. If you're a startup or you're just learning, it's free. It's unbelievably capable 3D CAD CAM software, and you can spend tons of time looking at tutorials on YouTube, learning how to play around with the software, starting to figure out what it will do. Then join practicalmachinist.com. A lot of the stuff on there is ridiculously over my head and will be ridiculously over your head, but there's also a lot of useful information on there. I found other forums like CNC Zone and a few of those places less useful, because a lot of guys in those environments were focused primarily on 2D and 2.5D engraving and sign making, which is totally not what I'm doing. And so a lot of their applications and the software they were using was not what I wanted. So if you're into sign making, 2D, 2.5D stuff, a lot of VCarve, you'll run into a lot of Vectric software. So Cut 2D, Cut 3D, and Aspire, I didn't want any of those. Also like Rhino CAD CAM and Visual Mill, I tried those, I hated them. The program you want, Skylar, is Fusion 360 from Autodesk. It's cloud-based, which can be a problem if you have bad internet service. But if you've got internet, I mean, there's a Fusion 360 app. I have it on my iPhone. I can open and view my 3D CAM files, my 3D CAD files, on my iPhone 6. It's usable on Mac or PC. It's great software. And for the kind of stuff I'm doing, which is all 3-axis, I'm not doing any 4-axis or 5-axis work, Fusion 360 can do anything that I want. I learned on a student seat of Autodesk Inventor 2014, which is a great software too. Autodesk Inventor is awesome, And if you were in a situation where you couldn't use Fusion or you needed more capability than it offers, Inventor's a good option. Some of you guys are just lurking here and did not post up what the next hurdle is you plan to overcome. A few of you did, and I appreciate that. That's great. If you were here and you didn't post up a problem or a hurdle you're planning to get over or try to get over in the next month, post it up. I want to see what it is. So I'm going to get that thing running. I took some time off from the shop. My wife had a baby, our fourth, my son Nate, and a lot of things have sort of been in flux in the shop. And I'm just getting back into the swing of things, getting back into Facebook Live, getting caught up on my retail orders, pushing out a bunch of wholesale product. I was running the router a lot yesterday, making a lot of small parts, while I was busy running the mill, making a lot of 3D parts. Too many to list, says Michael Hallam. Well, here's the thing. Thank you, Will. I appreciate the congratulations. Having kids is awesome. I now have 4 future laborers for the Henry Holsters factory, and they're growing up super fast. Part of having these goals that you can actually quantify, just launched my website now, looking at CNC for my next hurdle. Yeah, I mean, CNC is great. Your hurdle is more work. I need to get the word out. I'm not a marketer, I'm a holster maker. Yeah, that's not a problem I have currently, but I remember when I did have that problem, and the landscape has changed a lot since then. Instagram, Facebook, they're really good for getting the word out, but you'll need to figure out who in your local area you can get the word out to. Are there IDPA, USPSA matches you can go to, you can show your stuff off to? Are there local gun clubs? Are there local gun stores? Is there anybody you can get to put your card on their counter? Find ways to get the word out there in ways that don't require you to be actively doing it all the time, like putting up some handbills, putting up some posters, putting out some business cards, putting up some stuff on YouTube that can be found. The CNC recommendations were Cam Master out of Georgia, Shop Saber out of Minnesota would be the 2 that I would look at. I know a couple of guys have picked up Shop Sabers recently and are working with them and starting to get comfortable with them. And so I get feedback from them and ask them how they're liking them, how they like the software, how they like the setup, the tool touch sensor, all the different details that go with the router they have. But write these goals down. Like, I have a whiteboard. You probably can't see what's written on it, but I have a whiteboard back there over my CAD bench, and I write down stuff that is next on the block of things that I need to do, stuff I need to figure out how to do, stuff I need to test again and troubleshoot, things that I did that didn't work that I need to go back and revisit. All that stuff goes on that board because I love crossing it off and then scrubbing it out because I finished it, because it was a problem and I crushed it. I love crossing things off lists. Money, new website, Swift press, router, and perfect production, then marketing. Okay, Christian, I'm going to punch you on this. That's too much. Part of having these goals and having a plan to actually overcome them is looking at all the stuff you have that has to get done and prioritizing, because you can't solve every problem all at once. And solving them effectively with the minimum pain requires that you actually prioritize and have a hit list of stuff. This has to happen, then I can do that. Once those 2 are done, then I can do this. And if you try to do all those at once, if you try to get on to part 3 before part 2 is dialed, you'll make it impossible. You'll have too many variables. Like when I was a school teacher, one of the things I taught my kids in history class was about the birth of the scientific method. And it was all about organization, structure, and actually having a plan for measuring your results, revising your hypothesis, going back and testing again. If you just try to throw 1,000 variables in all at once, stuff won't work and you won't know why. You'll never be able to solve the problem because you'll never be able to isolate one variable that caused the problem. Like, if you've recently started vacuum forming and it's not working for you, it's really hard to troubleshoot the whole process all at once. Like, when I started vacuum forming, I took squares. I just cut molds that were square and beveled the edges and put small, inexpensive pieces of plastic on them until I got the definition I wanted. I wasn't using big sheets. I wasn't trying to do 2 or 3 molds at a time. I just did really, really simple stuff in order to see if I was actually getting the definition I needed, because I had to isolate 1 or 2 variables at a time. Was I heating long enough? Was I heating hot enough? And was I moving plastic from heat to vacuum fast enough? This is something I see on Instagram that boggles my mind. And I'm not going to call out individual companies, but there are a few that I think of specifically when I say this. Dude, you're on the 17th year. I taught elementary, then middle, then high school, then back to elementary, and now I'm done. It's not that I'll never teach again, because I loved teaching, but the holster company started picking up speed. Like, the snowball was going downhill and picking up size. And during the school year, I was working till 2 in the morning every school night trying to keep up with orders, and I could not keep up. And if I continued that for one more school year, I was going to end up in my own padded room. So it had to change, had to stop. But I'm curious, Will, what do you teach? And this thing that I see that drives me crazy is guys taking plastic out of their heater, laying it on their mold, and then spending 10 to 12 seconds adjusting it oh so carefully until it's perfectly aligned, and then they close the lid and engage the vacuum. Every second you let the plastic sit post-heat, you're losing 8 to 12 degrees of temperature. If you let that sucker sit for 10 seconds, you've probably lost 30 to 40 degrees. And, you know, of course you're not going to get the results you need if you're taking that heat and you're just throwing it away into the air. Like, here's the benchmark, and I really shoot for this. I actually run a timer on myself, okay? Christian, yes, focus on small goals. Pick one thing this week and kick its teeth down its throat. Pick one goal and smash it. Get up every morning and come into the shop, or evening, whenever you come into your shop, and say, today, if I get nothing else done, this one thing is getting done. No, I'm left-handed. This is actually a left-handed Eddie Bauer almost Nalgene. My goal, out of the heat press, onto the mold, and under full vacuum, 6 seconds. If I'm longer than 6 seconds, I'm losing. Head track and field coach, PE teacher, health. Yeah, I bet that makes for some long weekends. But good on you for educating the youth. Yeah, like this is one simple area where I think a lot of companies are just throwing away quality, just throwing it away. They're just missing it because it requires $0, no new equipment, and it will improve the quality of their holsters instantly. If you aren't getting the plastic onto your molds and under vacuum in 6 to 8 seconds, you're losing. Just that, like, you gotta go that fast. If you're not going that fast, you're throwing away definition. And if you try to heat your plastic hotter to overcome that deficit of time, you're probably scorching some plastic and throwing some away. Now, I understand. If you're using custom prints from Tactical Infusions and you get one shot at it, you've got to get it lined up. But guys, you have to go fast. Like, there is no value to going slow when the plastic is cooling by the second. So, like, I am not gentle with my Swift press. Like, I don't know, I mean, if you guys have taken, when you take handgun training, if you have a good teacher, a good coach, a good trainer, and you're at a range and you're shooting and you get a malfunction, okay? Or they're just teaching a good admin reload, okay? If you've seen people gently ease a magazine in and then sort of ride the slide back, you look at that and go, no, dude. Like, drive that mag home, run that slide hard, don't ride it home, it's not gonna break, you gotta run it hard. It's the same thing with plastic. When I drop that plastic over a mold, I come in at 100 miles an hour with that Swift press frame. The plastic is down and I drive the mold down on it. You know, I don't care if I smush the plastic and have frame marks in the plastic around the mold. That's all getting thrown away. I want to get it crushed down as fast as I can because I want every degree of temperature I can keep in that plastic in it. I'm back. It just told me I crashed. I don't know if I'm back. Looks like I'm back, like I didn't lose anybody. So, I'm going to close out for the evening. I got some more things to feed to the mill, and it's getting late. So, what I want you guys to do is this week, write down one goal that you're going to kill this week in your shop. It might be finally spending time with the IR thermometer and actually throwing away. Like, I keep scrap, all my scrap. If you cut scrap out of sheets and you have got small square pieces, use that to test time and temperature. Put those in your heat press, experiment with time and temperature, go in 10-second or 5-degree increments, and pull those out and hit them with an IR thermometer as soon as they come out. And actually test different spots in your heat press. Take all that scrap and make it usable. Make it worth something. I keep a box of scrap under my bench. Brian Hicks, when will the Swift press be back in stock? Probably at least 3 weeks. I don't have any more material for them yet. I ordered more today, and I'm gonna have to find, making 30 or 40 more Swift presses will take me a week. Once I get all the material in and get the molds, the mill all cleaned out and everything set up, there's a fair bit of machining involved to machine both sides and chamfer the edges and drill all the holes and tap them and do all that. So Brian, it'll be a couple weeks before I have more Swift presses, but I'll be posting updates on Instagram. So if you don't follow me there, follow me and see what's going on. Excuse me. But your scrap plastic is really good for testing time and temperature on your process without throwing away usable sizes. And you can even take a small frame and use small pieces of plastic that you couldn't make a holster with and couldn't make a mag carrier with, and you can still heat those up and vac form those things and see what your definition is like. Like, just screw some stuff together or chop some things up, make some odd shapes with some sharp corners and some draft on them, and take small pieces of scrap plastic, heat them up, vac form them down, and see how tight you can pull. And do all that work. Thank you guys, appreciate the bless. I don't know, like all of a sudden today I've had allergies again. Find a way to make that scrap work for you. You know, there's no reason to take pieces of plastic this big and throw them away if they're perfectly usable. Test temperature with that stuff. But set aside time, say, for the next hour, all I'm gonna do is test some part of my process. All I'm gonna do is take 15 pieces and put them in different spots and get an IR thermometer and run it and actually test that. I got a new heat press this past week and a half, and I've been putting pieces of plastic in and testing them because I need to get that dialed, and I don't want to dial it on big pieces of plastic that would make holsters. I don't want to scrap those. I want to dial it on small scrap that I don't have any money left in and don't feel bad about throwing away. So I'm going to sign off for tonight. I have one last question for you guys, those 16 of you who are still hanging out with me. I've been thinking about putting together an email list because it's hard to always get the attention of all the people who would be interested when I'm going to schedule a Facebook Live broadcast. And whenever I shoot YouTube videos, I want to have a way to notify people who are interested. So I have a Henry Holsters YouTube channel. I would appreciate it if you would subscribe there. Strictly using Bolteron. I'll get to that in just a second, Will. I'm thinking about putting together a HolsterLife email list. If you would be interested and would consider signing up, believe me, I'm not going to spam you guys with crap, and I'm not going to try to sell you stuff you don't need. But if you would be interested in finding out more about when I'm announcing things, when I'm releasing stuff, and just having, info about what's going on in the shop and what I'm working on, if I put together an email list, basically an occasional newsletter or a notification of when I'm putting out stuff that I think is important, that I think you'll want to see, if you would be interested, post up in the comments that you would consider signing up for that, and I will put it together. I've got to spend, I'm going to be on the road for 5 or 6 days next week, which means I'm going to be getting caught up on a whole bunch of emails, updating my website, doing stuff for my phone and my laptop, because I'm going to be away from the shop and I can't make holsters. And that'll be the time when I hope to get that whole thing launched. And so I'll be having a sign up for that open sometime next week. And I would love to have you guys sign up so that I can share information that's valuable to you without having to spend tons and tons of time hacking around on social media trying to tag everybody. So that's that. Will, back to your quick question. For my holsters, I use only Bolteron. That's what I like. It's just what I'm most comfortable using. I like the way it heats in vacuum forms. It's a little different from Kydex. You can use either one and they'll work fine, but if you're gonna go back and forth and change often, that can get a little bit tricky because you have to keep track of slightly different time and temperature formulas in order to get the results you need. Mike Jolly says he'll sign up. Conrad will sign up. Ryan Brapp will subscribe to my Instagram and Facebook. Great. Obviously, I will post up as the next batch of Swift presses starts getting built. I appreciate the emails, guys. I will throw you on the list when I get things rolling with that. Thank you very much for stopping by. I'm going to go ahead and sign off. I appreciate you spending time with me. If you have questions, don't hesitate to send me an email or DM me on Instagram or message me on Facebook. Email's better. I don't check Facebook messages as often. But if you have particular questions you want to ask me about how I do things in this shop, the equipment I'm using, my process, I'm committed to making this as transparent as I can. So ask questions and I will get you all the info I can. So thank you very much, guys. I appreciate you watching. Have a great weekend. Keep crushing it in your shops. Have a good night.